We'll call the board business meeting for June 22nd to order. Barb, would you please note the roll?
Certainly. Board Chair Hefner.
Here.
Vice Chair O'Loughlin.
Here.
Treasurer Lehman.
Here.
Jennifer Pelletier Clerk. Here. Director Pearson.
Here.
Director Potacek.
Here.
Director Stibland.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. Would you please stand for a pledge of allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Two action items this evening. The first is the technical support and coordinator, supervisor, specialist, terms and conditions of employment 2017-2018 and 2018-2019. There you go. You've got it, Ken.
Good evening, Chair Hefner, Superintendent Montrose, and members of the board. As a district, we have 9 contracts that we approve on a 2-year cycle. This evening, I'm going to request your approval of the terms and conditions for 3 of our groups, which are combined into 2 terms and conditions. The tech support group, which is our clerical support, the coordinator supervisor specialist group, and then the district directors, managers, and program administrators. The terms and conditions for these groups expire on June 30, so they have not expired but will be, and if you approve them tonight, they'll be effective on July 1st. Due to the fact that basically I'm going to give you one update, all of the changes that I'm going to provide you are the exact same changes that are in all of the contracts, so I'll just do one update and then I'll request that you do 2 action items, one for each of the terms and conditions. As it relates to the language changes, other than updating outdated language, there are very few changes that were made to the terms and conditions this round. The main change that we made is due to an update, is to update the language in our agreement so that it aligns with some work Kristen and I have been doing to change our payroll process so that our employees are paid on the 15th and the last day of the month rather than the 5th and the 20th, so that we have staff being paid in after they've completed the work versus in advance, and in preparation of moving to an electronic time tracking system that we will be doing gradually over the course of the next school year. Additionally, in accordance with the parameters that you set at the June 9th board meeting or closed session, the insurance in the contracts are all set at $85.15 for the family health insurance. The premiums or the district contribution for dental insurance has been increased to fully cover that, and the salary schedules have been increased by 1.5% each year. That's the extent of the changes that were made to the terms and conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Barring questions, administration is recommending approval of the terms and conditions for the tech support, coordinator, supervisor, specialist, and the district directors, managers, and program administrators.
Okay, and you want those split up action items?
2 action items.
2 action. Well, let's get a motion on the first of the 2, then the tech support at all in that group. Could I get a motion to approve that one?
I'll make a motion to approve the 27 through 2019 terms and conditions for the technical support coordinator, supervisor, specialist.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes?
So, A and B are together? C
Separate.
is separate?
Yes.
It's A and B.
Yeah, I don't have a seat. So I think A is separate, B is separate.
The terms and conditions are combined for coordinator, supervisor, and tech support. It's one terms
We
and
had a
condition.
previous agenda that had 3, so are they combined?
There's 3 groups.
Okay.
2 of them are in one terms and conditions. Sorry.
Could you say a little bit more about the dental?
This year in our dental plan through the insurance, when we did our plan, our dental reserve is actually operating at a level that's below reserve. So we did an increase as an insurance committee to bring it up. It's $10 a month increase to the insurance per month. And so that increase, the contract amounts that were defined only did not fully fund that. So we brought those amounts up to fully fund dental.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
I guess maybe a logistical, would it be better to settle teachers first and then administrators, just for I don't know, the sake of goodwill or?
So when we talked in the closed session, one of the things we talked about is if there's contracts that we could get done, we would do that. If we don't settle the contracts before they expire, we are making people pay for insurance that we would have to retroactively reimburse for both health and dental. And there's salary increases that would not go into effect, we'd have to retroactively do. So for these groups, because we were able to get them done quickly, it avoids a lot of extra work and time to pay and then retroactively change it.
I like the question, Shelley, but I'm also of the opinion that once you get a contract settled with a group, you might as well adopt it and let them move on. And that's just how they flush out.
And just to clarify, these are meet and confer groups, so these are not negotiations groups. They're groups that we met with the employees and talked with them, but then did terms and conditions and shared those out.
With the health insurance still 100% single.
Correct. We do have a couple places where the high deductible is a little bit above the 85.15, but we froze that premium again until it reaches the 85.15.
Anything else on this one? All those in favor of approving tech support and coordinator, supervisor, specialist, terms and conditions of employment 2017 through 2019, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And can we get a motion to approve district directors, managers, and program administrators' terms and conditions of employment 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019?
I'll make a motion to approve the district directors, managers, and program administrators' terms and conditions of employment 2017 to 18 and then 2018 to 2019.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Questions? Mike?
As I expressed at our last meeting, am very, very concerned about the proposed budget and this motion as well because of unseen cost. And again, I think there's two very different viewpoints out there. The likelihood that we're going to lose a lot or we're going to gain students. And in particular, I am of the concern, I hope it doesn't happen, but I think we're going to lose a lot of kids. So as I look at this proposal to pass the contract, I'm saying that takes away an option that we may or may not want to relook at. If we support that contract tonight, that takes that option off the table. If we suddenly get overwhelmed or underwhelmed with the student population as it develops in the first days of school, we could still make adjustments. In particular, I think the contingency plan, as we heard at the last meeting, was, if necessary, to dip into the fund balance. And those of you who've been around a little bit know that one of the problems when you dip into the fund balance is that if you go to make it up the following year, you really have to make up for 2 years. And so for that reason, I am going to ask that the board consider, and I'm going to move to that effect, to table the contract until we have a better idea, and I'm looking at the point of early September as to what happens to student enrollment.
We do have a bit of an update about student enrollment that might be helpful now.
Absolutely. So we have received requests for student records from the new charter school that has formed. And with that, it does not take into account kindergarten, this year's incoming class, because we don't have records for those students. So that's a number that is unknown to us right now. But any child or student that was existing within Stillwater Public Schools that has now chosen to go to the new charter school, that number is 125. And we were planning for 70. And so you have that variance of 55 kids, I'm doing that right in my hand, However, our secondary continues to grow. And so the net result isn't quite as significant as one might have thought. Now, that said, we don't know what St. Croix Catholic is going to do, or Salem Lutheran, or Prep. But, and the numbers, you know, again, back to people, they enroll quickly, they don't unenroll quickly, but the most significant, what we would anticipate is the most significant impact, we have those numbers. So I don't know what that means in this decision. I just don't see maybe the potential for a very, very, very large swing, just given that the complete unknown is now known. So.
How many are we losing from Brookview as well? Isn't there a big chunk of kids that are staying at Valley Crossing?
There are, I don't know if I would, I get challenged with big chunk, only because big is relative to whomever the individual is.
How many kids are going to stay at Valley Crossing? How many will we be losing to?
I want to say that though, I believe those numbers are in the 30s, if my recall is correct. However, those are already in our enrollment numbers, and so our net loss, it's accounted for, it's kind of come through, whether it be Lake Elmo
So this
or
is
other kids in Brookview.
125 above and beyond what you've already put into our current
That
status.
were new to us within the
Since the last
last
time.
2 weeks. And again, we kind of we had planned for 70. And then we see our secondary experiencing some growth. So,
We had planned for 70 in total enrollment numbers, but we had planned separately and held off hiring for sections to cover for additional.
Can you speak to who's included in district directors, managers, and program administrators?
Yes, that the district directors is all of, it's the executive directors, it's also the director of special ed, personalized learning, the learning and analytics. It's our special ed assistant director, our special ed program administrator, John Fry, is in that position.
community education.
Community ed, Carissa and Tony.
So how many folks are we talking?
12.
And can you give a rough figure dollar amount what that's going to be?
I did not bring the costings.
Do we know, so the students that are at St. Croix Catholic, for example, what is their deadline? Do we know, is it coming up? Is there, you know, because I hear a lot that some kids are coming over now based on the 9-12. They're going K-8 and then coming over to Stillwater for 9-12. So is that amount solidified yet, or is it still kind of being fleshed out? Do we know?
Well, we're about 50 students up than what we have projected at the secondary.
Okay.
And so some of those are from coming back from prep, some are from just like normal, you know, we get them from all of the schools.
And then typically when is it done? I mean, just
I would say the incoming, we have a pretty good handle on by the beginning of August.
Okay.
It's then what is removed. So we typically don't go up past the start of the school year. That's when we'll start to see decrease, because that's when people, you acknowledge that they're not in our district anymore.
So did they request increases like the charter, or maybe not? From us, St. Croix Catholic?
No, this is the average
St. Croix
scenario that we were originally talking about.
Yeah, as the information becomes known. Or, if parents make different decisions outside of our district, we don't necessarily have that information right away, or they've moved, or, again, we will peak at our top enrolled in August, certainly on the first day of school, and then it will drop off after that.
I think it's, I hear what Mike's saying, and I think that, we set parameters. That was my understanding, right? In our last closed session, we set parameters, and we gave Director Moen the authority to go out and proceed per our direction. So I personally think it's unfair to change course in that. And we should have had that discussion then, and then I think that if that decision would have been made. We gave our directive, and I think for us to change course on that is wholly unfair to not only her, but to the groups that she's been conferring with. So that's just my opinion.
And then I would say why have it as an action item? I mean,
Well, no, but then we should never have agreed to.
which I agree, we didn't have that conversation of how it could pan out. Of course, each of you, I value everything you do. It's just, for me, it's just a question, should the leaders be the last ones to settle? Would that be better? But I don't know that, it's just a question.
I thought it was a good question too. Is there anything you can give us as far as information on how things are going with the teachers' contracts? Or do we have an expected time of, is there anything you can tell us about when we can expect to see something finalized?
We haven't started with teachers yet.
Oh, okay.
We've had some initial, I think Denise had some initial conversations as well. The other two groups that are outstanding, I can give you an update on. The cafeteria, we meet Monday and I anticipate we'll finish.
Okay.
Custodians, we've met twice and I anticipate we should be finished before we come back to the next board meeting. My hope is to bring you those two contracts at the next meeting.
And is it usually, I've never gone through this before, so is it usually that the teacher's contract is the one that takes the longest? Usually?
Was it,
Because-
sorry, go ahead.
The custodian, the cafeteria, we actually, the custodian, we had anticipated we're planning to spend the day and stay there until we finished. Because they're usually, and cafeteria has the ability to settle at the table.
Okay.
So it usually is one meeting and we're done with them as well. So they go really quick.
So this is kind of normal as far as the timeline in past negotiation years?
Yes.
This is how it kind of usually has gone. That makes sense.
A couple things. One, Kristen, I've been trying to find out numbers as well. And I think and bottom line, I don't know what the final numbers are. I don't think anybody does. I've heard second, third hand that they were up to about 153. That's the number that I heard. Now, whether people can change their minds, certainly they can. And well, I think where it becomes more definitive is probably St. Croix Catholic, because I think they have to put some money down. But in terms of growth, for example, I think they kind of, we're going to do it, and they can change their mind. So I think they've got a little bit more flexibility. But I'm saying, bottom line, I don't know. I think they did pass some sort of resolution and creating, if needed, a second section of third grade. And so that would allow them to come much closer capacity-wise to 200. Now, whether they'll get those numbers or not, who knows? All I'm saying here, and again, I don't like to single out any particular group. You know that I was one of those even who felt that the budget was too definitive. But I'm saying what I look at us doing at this relatively early point is losing our flexibility. And I think that's important. And I think you mentioned last time, you know better than I do the difficulty if you go to make up a fund balance for 2 years in 1 year. And so, again, I think in this situation, I think you can still honor the contract if the enrollment figures allow you to do that.
Can you repeat, Shelley asked a question about the total cost of this particular package,
I did not bring
Oh,
it. I
I'm
can
sorry.
get that to you. I just don't have it with me.
but we're talking 8515, we're talking the fully paid dental, we're talking 1.5.
And does this group have steps and lanes also, or just?
Yes, that includes steps. There's a 5-step schedule. So if there's people moving through the steps, that's included in there.
Do you know how many are moving through the steps?
I'm gonna guess about half.
Is it typically what we do, that this is kind of the order that this is voted on every year? Or, because just Sarah's, I agree with Sarah, it's the first time going through this process, so is this typically kind of the order? I'm hesitant with this because I feel like we wrangled for quite a long time and came up with a number that we felt we could live with. So that's where I'm like, okay, why are we all of a sudden now having some issues? At the same time, Shelley, I appreciate your questions and concerns, and this is an action item, so I'm just wondering about the process because I'm new to it, so if anyone could speak more to that. And we don't know what the numbers are, but do we ever know what the actual numbers are? We don't, so.
And I can answer that a little bit, Jen. Generally, we would bring these groups together with the principals. Given the time frame between the closed session and the board meeting today, Andy and I had tried to have conversations about getting the principals done as well, but they have a group that they have to go back to and work with to get information and then go back and forth. It's not a terms and conditions, it's a negotiated. So rather than trying to push that group through and get it done so that they could all come together, we decided to wait and do that when we can do that at a different pace. Custodians and cafeteria, we would normally have brought as well. We just weren't able to get them all the way through. And the biggest concern is it's a lot of work to set everybody up and pay them in payroll and then undo it all to redo it a different way if we don't have to do it, which is the reason why we decided to bring what we could have done instead of creating double the work by trying to do retro pay. So I anticipate in July we'll have all of them. I don't expect teachers to be done in July, but I would anticipate all of the groups, if we can get it together, will be done by July.
All except teachers, because I'm sorry, I missed.
Right, I don't expect teachers to be done.
If I were to guess at a total figure, back to Shelley's question, and I say $100,000, would I be way out of the ballpark
I'm gonna
for a total
look at
amount?
Kristen and see if she.
I would have to I'm sorry, I would have to reference the sheet.
I'm just thinking 1.5 on a average salary in there. You gotta be in the neighborhood of 8,000. You got 12 employees, would be 96,000. You gotta be in the neighborhood of $100,000.
Plus the steps, I don't know how much that would change things.
I kind of agree with Mike that I am concerned about the budget. I want to make sure that we are being responsible financially, responsible stewards of our funds, and I am concerned about, possible big fluctuations in our enrollment for next year. There's a lot of change, and that sometimes brings some big differences. So it's a little bit of a risky time to be taking big leaps like this, but I think that I agree with Paula that we discussed this at length in the closed session. We kind of agreed on some parameters. This is the time for us to approve these contracts. We still have a lot more ahead of us. This is just a few, right? It's a small number compared to the whole group, to everyone. I kind of feel like we should move forward with this so they can get on doing the rest of the contracts. And I think at the same time, I would really like to have a lot more conversation about what options we do have in making adjustments to our expenses as we go forward next fall. We should be given lots of time to think about where can we make savings, where can we be doing things differently, what are we willing to, so we have time to think about it and even discuss it in an open meeting, what options do we have? I think it's really important that we continue that conversation. We voted to approve the budget at our last meeting, but I'm not comfortable personally for the fact that it's not a balanced budget and we are in kind of a tumultuous time. So we need to really stay close on that, I think. Keep a close eye and know what we can do if we need to make adjustments. What options do we have?
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I guess I would take exception. I think we are given plenty of opportunity to look at the budget. I think we're given plenty of opportunity to talk about how we go forward. This is a perfect example. We had a closed meeting that went till about midnight to come up with these parameters. We were certainly aware of the cost of all of this. We indicated to Kathy that these were the parameters we could live with within our budget. Mike and I have a difference of opinion as to where we think we'll be at with the number of students. I'm happy to hear that right now, only 125 people have requested their records. So, you know, and that, we'll never know until October. But I mean, I think, you know, yeah, we all want to make sure we're aligning what we're spending with where we're at. But I think, you know, for me, this is a parameter that we set. We told Kathy to negotiate the contract with within these parameters. It's come back within these parameters, and we just keep moving forward. I've been on the personnel negotiating for the past two. This is how it goes. We always come down to basically the teachers, because they're the largest group. They usually have, we have the most discussion over language and with regards to the budget and with regards to salary, just because of the number that we're dealing with. But every time, this is how it's gone. We get 8 of them done, and then we work with the teachers and get that done as quickly as we can.
George, what I can tell you, remember I had given you the costing that was average in 1.5. So when I look at those numbers, the base roll-up cost is $133,000. So that's if everybody that needs to steps, and we do that for the 2-year contract with nothing on the schedule.
For 2 years.
For 2 years. The package cost with the 1.5% with the scenario that I gave you at that time was about $26,000 for the year that we did a 1.5%. So you do that 2 times now, and then remember it's compounded from the first year, so.
So it's roughly, you take the 133 and 26 times 2, which is 52.
It's about 200.
It's about 200,000.
I'd say it's about 2.
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
So you're pretty good at your 100.
Sarah, I agree with you, and having sat on the budget adjustment advisory committee years ago when we were looking at having to cut almost $6 million, it was really, really painful, and I don't think any of us wants to be in that deficit mode, and I just think, you know, if we hadn't gone through the school consolidation, we'd be looking in addition to another $1.2 million in cuts. So I agree with you. A balanced budget it's not only a goal, but it's it's where we need to be. But I think we're looking at every cost measure, you know, that's out there, and I think we've made some progress toward that. So.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yes.
I think it was to
I would-
table this till September.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, not hearing a second, that will fail. Any more discussion on the district director, manager, program administrator terms and conditions, 2017-2019?
I just
Yep.
want to make just one note, I think, kind of along the lines of what Sarah was saying. It's hard to not know exactly where we're going to find the money, so it's hard to say we'll figure it out. So the more we can figure that out sooner than later, I think the better it would sit with everybody. That I think we all want a balanced budget, so I think the sooner we kind of feel better about where we are would be good.
All those in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, please signify by saying no and raising your hand.
No.
Thank you. And with that, we'll adjourn the
I'll make a motion. to
board
adjourn.
business.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.